The illegal migration crisis is hitting all areas in this country now. It's affecting directly the NHS workers who are being kicked out of hotels to make room for illegal migrants. Okay, of all things people we talk about, of all things mainstream media a lot talk about, this is one of those scandals that we have to cover on a regular basis until we find out what we're actually doing as a country, as a government, as society in general. This is actually about this news story that came out, which was about illegal migration. The numbers, the rate is so high now, but it's also not in terms of just the numbers. It's lack of planning to see what we're actually doing with these people, because we're not turning the boats around, we're not sending them back to France, and you can't stop them from coming here despite how much money we give to the French government. But our nurses are paying the price of a migration crisis. Now what we have is that the number of places in hotels that some nurses, for example, use as accommodation to travel, to commute, to work and all that, and just generally speaking, the burden on their healthcare is affecting everybody. So in York, for example, there's a hotel that's for nurses, for their accommodation, so they could actually be near the hospital where they are. That's going to be used by asylum seekers. Also, this headline's from the BBC, so that's what it says, asylum seekers. Of course, the BBC is going to say that. Of course, the BBC is not going to say illegal migrants, because, well, at least migrants who illegally enter the country. That's the right phrasing, right? They are migrants. They illegally enter the country. So, and then we find out what they are. When you go through the cases and you process the cases, there will be a few who will be asylum seekers, there will be a few who are economic migrants, there are a few who come from Albania who just want to sell drugs on the streets. So, not all of them, obviously. So this is what we're dealing with. And there are hardworking people who are being affected. This whole thing is undermining legal migrants who are still waiting in the queue to see if they can pass the test to come into the country, to actually contribute to the economy, to actually contribute to the NHS. This reminds me, look at this one. Sam Friedman tweeted about this article that I just showed you, saying 70,000 nurses, NHS nurses, are migrants. We'd be screwed without them. So people like Sam and liberal lefties really can't differentiate between legal migrants and legal economic migrants and 70,000 migrants who are working in the NHS and those migrants who are illegally entering the country on a small boat. Do you really think 70,000 NHS workers, they're all just like last week came on a boat from France and then they instantly got a job at the NHS? No, that's not how it works, Sam. This is not how the system works. The people, the vast majority of people working in the NHS, if they are not British, then they are economic migrants who had to fill in the paperwork, they had to be processed, and now they're working at the NHS. They're not illegal migrants. They're not walking around without paperwork, without any certification that they could stay here. That's not how it works. So yes, we'll get a few who actually work at the NHS, but we also get hundreds and thousands or more who are coming here illegally over the last few years, who also then use the NHS for free. So there's no balance. If you say, well, migration is good because that some of them work at the NHS. Yeah, but when there's more of them, more illegal migrants, putting a burden on the healthcare, it actually undermines those nurses who came here legally to actually get the paperwork sorted. It's also what happened to putting Britain first, and what happened to actually looking after our own country, training up our own people, making sure you incentivize people to work in these sectors and industries. What happened there? Oh yes, we know. Politicians happened. Right, let's take a quick break. I'm going to come back in half an hour. We're going to talk to you guys about Rishi Sunak's pro-China attitude and how Ian Duncan-Smith has decided to slam the Prime Minister over his friendly wording towards China. Subscribe to the channel. I'm Tousi and we are the media.